again, and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and in this video I want to talk a bit about tone chasing, what we do when we're trying to dial in a particular guitar sound, the way the guitarist will compare us, all sorts of different overdrive pedals and all the different things that we can vary in the signal chain to give us a particular sound. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about this sort of thing, about what a guitar sounds like and little things you can do to tweak it, and it just got me thinking about, well, how much of it do we actually need to do? So what I thought I'd do is basically just set the guitar up with some pedals on the pedal board going into the amp, tweak a few things, and yeah, you'll see as we go along. So today I'm playing this 1970 Gibson Les Paul Deluxe into my pedal board with a few pedals switched on, going into the amp, and I've just set up a sound that sounds like this. Yeah, thoroughly pleasing sound. So we've got the dirty channel on the amp, a little bit of gain from a Frederick Effects Golden Eagle, there's some reverb going on there, there's a bit of digital delay. That's about it. And I like that sound. I'll also like this sound. What's the difference there? Well, I actually just stood on a compressor. Quite a subtle change. So this is with the compressor. This is without. And obviously this is on YouTube, so YouTube sometimes compresses the audio a bit anyway, so you might not hear the full benefit of the sound, certainly what I'm hearing in the room. If you're just listening on a smartphone or tablet speakers, you're not going to get the effect at all. You need to be listening on good desktop speakers or through headphones. But yeah, what I'm doing there is I'm adding in an effect that's changing the sound slightly, and I like the way that sounds. I've got other options. I could take that Golden Eagle out and play a JSA effect Dumble more. So what's the difference? So this is the sound I had originally with the Golden Eagle. This is with the Dumble more. So a little bit of difference in sound there. One's got a bit more gain. One, I think the Golden Eagle's got maybe a little bit more top end bloom to it. It's all kind of subjective, which sounds better or worse or just more suitable for particular application. But you're hearing some differences in sounds there. And I've got another drive pedal down there. I've got the plimsoll, which sounds like this. Golden Eagle. Dumble more. Golden Eagle and Dumble more. And I could add in compressors, I could add in other effects, I could turn a phaser on. Which may or may not be appropriate for any given setting. But there's all these different pedals that I've got there, and I can mess around with the time-based effects. I could add delay, make the delay more prominent, I could take the delay out, I could change the reverb, all these different things. So when you're setting up a guitar sound, there's all these different factors that you take into account. And first thing, and I've done a separate video about this, but it's the idea of setting your effect based on what you're hearing rather than what you're seeing. You can use the idea of, okay, I want more gain, I want a dirty sound, so I'm going to look at the gain control, and if the gain control is more towards the right hand side, then I'm going to have more gain. If it's more towards the left, I'm going to have less gain. You can just do a quick approximation of the sound, but really when you're dialing in the sound, you should just be playing the guitar through the effect and think, okay, how does that sound? Not quite gainy enough, turn the gain up, or a bit too gainy, turn the gain down. Actually making the adjustments based upon what you hear is much more effective than just thinking, well, I know what the various knob settings should be. So that's the first thing. But you can really get into this rabbit hole of I've got all these different effects. I've got all the controls on the guitar. You know, I mean, everything you've heard so far has just been with the volume on full, tone at about, what's that, about number 8, all off the bridge pickup. I'm not messing around with different pickup settings. Not changed anything on the amp. Just switching in and out different effects with particular sets of settings. I haven't even changed any of the settings on the pedals. So yes, there's an infinite amount of things that you can change, and you can really get stuck in this rabbit hole of, well, what do I want? Oh, I'm going to just change this, I'm going to change that, and before you know it, you spend an hour just trying to fine-tune your sound. You've not really played anything. You've not done anything creative. And the question, so the second point of this is, well, how valuable is that? How valuable is the time that you spend in fine-tuning that sound? In terms of guitar playing, you know, what you should be aiming for being as good as you possibly can. You know, good enough isn't good enough. If you see what I mean, you should be trying to, you know, play as cleanly as you possibly can, play as accurately as you possibly can, and all that. Setting up the best sound that you can, but you get this law of diminishing returns about how much time you spend trying to set the sound up versus what the sound actually gives you, and more importantly, what it gives the person who's listening. Because if you're listening to this on, you know, whatever sound reproduction equipment you're listening to me to this on, and you hear this sound, and then you hear this sound, well, what have you heard? Do you know which was which? It doesn't really matter which is which. As it happens, the first one was the Golden Eagle, and the second one was the Dumb Mumble. That was the change that I made. All the other effects were the same. But if I'm messing around with my pedals, and I've got all the different sorts of settings that I can put on, I can add compressors and whatnot, and then I just play you a sound. Which sound was that? I played you 2 sounds earlier on, just before I played the setup using the Golden Eagle, and I played the setup using the Dumb Mumble, and you could tell the difference. You know, one was a little bit more gainy, slightly different EQ sort of tone structure. Then I rambled for a bit, and you lost your frame of reference. I misled you by standing on some pedals just for the hell of it and made no change to the sound, and then played something. Was it the Golden Eagle or was it the Dumb Mumble? It was the Dumb Mumble. Did you get that right? Did you get that wrong? It really doesn't matter. What matters is, did it sound good to you? If I was using that sound in a mix, did it fit in the mix? And did it sound good? You know, and I can spend a lot of time setting up particular settings on that pedal, just how I want the tone to be, how I want the gain to be. But unless you've got a frame of reference, subtle changes in what the pedal, on how the pedal is set, or you know, how the amp EQ or whatever is set up, doesn't actually make that much difference to the listener. And indeed, if studio setting like this is one thing. If you set your sound up to play live, and you've got, okay, I'm really happy with my sound, and then the room fills with people, you might have set your sound up to fit the acoustics of the room, but as soon as the people come in, they just absorb more sound than they reflect, and they're going to completely change the acoustics in the room. You know, whether you have an audience of predominantly skinny people or predominantly fat people who have, you know, or people wearing like woolly jumpers or something that's going to absorb sound, it will change the acoustics of the room very, very subtly. So all these tiny micro adjustments you're making to your sound, it's taking up time, and it could easily be negated by something. And as I said before, unless the person listening has a frame of reference, then it doesn't really make any difference to them. All they're hearing is a guitar sound. It's not about relatives, it's about absolute. Does it sound good? If it sounds good, then in an acceptable use of the term, it's good enough. So we've set the amplifier up, we've set the effects up, we've got all the settings the way that we want them, we've added this, we've removed that from the signal chain, and we've got a sound. And you say, right, that is my sound. I'm going to get a Sharpie, I'm going to mark my pedals exactly where all the knobs are set, I'm going to make a note of the particular thickness of pick that I'm using, all those factors. And that is my sound. Now listen to this. You heard two different sounds there, didn't you? Did you see my feet move towards pedals? No. Did you see me change any settings on the guitar? No. Is there somebody else in the room secretly twiddling knobs in the background or doing something remotely? No. It was mic placement. One of those sounds you heard was a microphone placed in front of the amplifier. The other one was from a load box that's sitting between the amplifier and the speaker, and it's got a direct output on it. So one of those you were hearing, as well as the sound of the guitar and the pedals and the amplifier, the preamp and all that jazz, you were hearing the sound of the microphone in one case, and you were hearing the effect of a speaker emulator and like an impulse response, if you like, in the second. So I can make differences to the sound by changing that sort of thing. Now consider this. That sounded different, didn't it? What did I do during that fade? I moved the microphone. So you were hearing exactly the same setup. You were hearing the same guitar, same pickup, same pick, same cable, same effects, same amplifier, same settings, same microphone. But the microphone was sitting in a different position relative to the speaker. Same distance, just moved slightly off to one side relative to the center of the speaker. Or sorry, what we'll call the placement like in the speaker axis. So we can have all of these factors, but one little change like mic placement completely changes the voice of the guitar. So the main thing I want you to kind of take as a takeaway from this video is, yes, there's a vast variety of things we can do to shape the tone of the guitar. But even then, once you've got your perfect tone set up, there could be a factor that you hadn't considered that's not necessarily even part of your guitar rig that changes the sound. And secondly, what I think is probably useful to think about is, as much as anything, is that a lot of the subtleties in differences in settings on effects pedals or mic placement or anything like that, they're only really apparent to you when you're doing a side-by-side comparison. As long as what you're playing sounds good and in some way inspires you to play the guitar and get the most out of your playing, and it pleases the audience and it fits into the mix and all of that jazz. You know, whether you've got that microphone a wee bit to the left or a wee bit to the right, or the gain control on your pedal set just a fraction of a rotation higher or lower, yes, it'll make a difference to the sound. And if you're wanting to commit to something in a studio, it's worth spending a bit of time to get your perfect sound. But don't over obsess about it to the extent that it takes away the time that you spend being creative, writing music, playing music. I don't want to use the term good enough, because good enough sometimes has a bit of a derogatory meaning. Oh, it's all right, it's good enough. What I'm talking about is having a sound that it's fit for purpose. You could make it a fraction of a percent different. It might sound a fraction of a percent better to you, but sound is kind of subjective, and that tweak might be a fraction of a percent worse for somebody else listening to it? So is it really worth spending all of that time for just like, okay, yeah, I'm hearing it. If I can hear like a quarter of a decibel increase at the 22.5 kilohertz frequency, it's gonna, yeah, it'll sound a little bit different if you're listening in a really high quality listening environment and doing a side-by-side comparison, but ultimately, does it really matter that much? Probably not. Just get something that works and play your guitar and enjoy it. Enjoy the experience and share your music with people, and they'll enjoy it. No one's going to be sitting in the audience saying, that's quite good, but I'd like to hear that again, but with a slightly different EQ curve. No, it's not. It's even hardcore audiophiles. If they're that obsessed about your sound, they're not music fans of audiophiles. You should be creating music for music fans, and it's the music that matters. You get what I mean. Okay, hopefully you found that interesting and it's given you some food for thought about how you set up your guitar tone and how you split your time between setting up tone and actually playing guitar and playing music. If you liked it, please click like down there. If you really liked it and you want to see other videos that I post on the channel, then please click subscribe down there and click the bell icon so you're notified when I upload new content onto the channel. You're welcome to leave a comment. I don't always get notified by YouTube when people comment on videos though, so if there's a specific question you want to ask me, whether it's about guitars, guitar equipment, guitar playing, music theory, anything at all, you're better off going here, fill that form in, send your question in, and that way I'm guaranteed to see it and I can get around to answering your question in a future video. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.